Well, hello, thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail, and we are in the village of DONAGHMORE, and we're looking down the village here, and where we are is actually we're outside the Roman Catholic Church, and this is St Patrick's Roman Catholic Church, and there was already a chapel here in 1806, but after the Catholic emancipation in 1829, the previous chapel was demolished in 1845, and this new chapel replaced it, which is both larger and higher than the previous one. And you can see the cross there across the street, which is original, it's not a replica, and that cross actually dates from the 10th century. And so we'll go over and have a wee look. Just have to watch crossing the road here. And so this is the cross then, and it dates from the 10th century, as you can see. And there's a replica cross in the graveyard, and we'll have a look at that shortly. And this is actually one of the oldest graveyards in Ireland. And Patrick actually established a church here in the 5th century. And from it then developed a monastic site, which is said to be associated with Cullum. And it's likely that the old graves in this graveyard actually dates from then. And there's evidence that an early abbey actually existed within the graveyard as well. And in 1622, there was a new Protestant church was built inside the graveyard, but this was severely damaged during the 1641 rebellion. And in the early 1830s, there was a schoolhouse that was built just behind the old cross. And of course, people of all denominations were buried here in this graveyard, this old graveyard, including the Reverend Thomas Kennedy of Garland Presbyterian Church. And so this is the entrance then to the graveyard. And you can see the old graves. Fantastic, isn't it? It's like walking back in history. Fantastic. And this is the O'Neill monument, which I will be showing you in another wee video. And so stay tuned for that, as you can see. So I'm not going to say much on this because I talk about this in another wee video, but I'll just let you see it. You can see the red hand there of the O'Neills, and the shamrock as well. And some would say that Patrick used the shamrock to describe the Trinity, but of course he didn't. That's folklore. He didn't actually do that. But you can see the red hand there and the shamrock then on top of it. And part of that is actually broken off, that pillar. And that pillar was erected in 1878, and it was erected to the memory of Hugh O'Neill of the Red Hand of Ulster, created Earl of Tyrone by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth I. And he died in exile at Rome on the 20th of July 1616, aged 76 years. But I'm not going to say too much about that because I do talk about the Red Hand of Ulster and the O'Neills in the next wee video. And the remains of the 19th century schoolhouse could actually be still here, because there's a wall, a small wall, and the schoolhouse was actually behind the old cross. And when I seen this old wall, then it got me to thinking, I wonder, is this the remains of the old schoolhouse, the old 19th century schoolhouse? And it could well be, and I would say it probably is, although I can't say for sure, but it certainly looks like it to me, which is this wall here. And the old schoolhouse was situated just behind the cross, the old cross, which is there, and then this wall's just behind that. So I would assume maybe somebody from the area maybe in one of the historical organisations can confirm whether this is the old schoolhouse wall or not. But I would say that there's certainly a strong possibility that it is. And the schoolhouse was just behind the cross, the old cross. And so you can see the wall there. Now, there is also a replica cross, and it was put up in 2001 in this graveyard, and I'm going to show you that now. And that's the replica cross there. Of course, across the street there, across the road, is the modern Roman Catholic graveyard. But this is the replica cross of the old cross that was from the 10th century, if I remember rightly, I said. Yeah, from the 10th century. But this is the replica one, as you can see. Now, the Reverend George Walker, he built a house here in 1683, which was destroyed during the Williamite Wars in Ireland. And so his son John rebuilt it in 1707. And then after the Walker family left Donaghnmore, the Blackhalls, they owned it. And then Alexander Mackenzie. And then the Lyle family. And then in the 1920s, the Daughters of the Cross took possession of it. And they opened a secondary school for girls. And it is actually now a co-educational school. And there's a stone at the opening of the school at the entrance, and it says, in the 5th century, Patrick founded Donaghmore's first church. And it goes on from the 11th century until the flight of the Earls in 1607. Donaghnmore was the property of the O'Neill clan. And the house then that John, Reverend Walker's son, built in 1707 is actually the school here today, as you can see. And so it's still a school today. So the Reverend George Walker actually had his house there, and it was destroyed. It was destroyed during the Williamite Wars. And so then John, his son, rebuilt it, and it's still a school today, which is there, as you can see. And so it still operates as a school today. So there you are. You can see it through the trees there. And so that's the history of Donaghmore's old graveyard. And for all the size of Donaghnmore village, and also all the size of the graveyard, it certainly packs a big punch for history, doesn't it? And especially with the old graves. Fantastic. So thanks for joining me on the church history trail, and God bless.